Hey guys. Okay. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. Let's get metaphysical. I created this day where you can learn something new in the realm of metaphysics. And of course, I'm starting my first very exciting series that is based on plasma intelligence. This is the entire reason I got into metaphysics. I'm sure most of you right now are like, what the F is plasma intelligence? It's plasma metaphysics, basically. It's the same kind of vibe, same kind of thing. I am going to explain to you what plasma intelligence is and how it will literally change your life forever for the better. I know that's a big thing to say, and I usually say, take my words with a grain of salt. I'm telling you, in some way, your life will be changed from this knowledge. So stay tuned. I'm about to tell you what I'm going to get into in this series, and it's going to be really exciting stuff. I'm going to try to make this video as simple and digestible as I can, but plasma is a very complicated, complex topic. And there are so many facets of it. It is like a beautiful crystal. So I can only simplify it so much. But in this video, in the first couple of videos, I will definitely start you off on a slow pace to help you guys kind of assimilate to the newness that is plasma. So for anyone that doesn't know what it is, do not worry, I've got you. Before I get into the different episodes that I'm going to be presenting you guys about plasma and what it is and the coolness and magic of it, I wanted to talk a little bit about my personal story and why I got so attracted to this very strange subject. It all started in a very interesting way. I was going through something hard in my life emotionally, and I randomly thought I had been meditating for like a couple months at this point, transcendental meditation, and I thought of the infinity symbol like out of nowhere. I don't know why. So I decided to Google it, and it led to something called a feedback loop, which makes sense because the infinity symbol is a feedback loop. And then from that, I found the word plasma and plasma physics. And I started looking at it, and I don't know why I got this, it's almost like this weird voice inside of me said something about, well, plasma might have intelligence, or there's something to this plasma that they're not talking about. And I don't know why. I do not know why I thought that, guys. And I thought I was kind of crazy. And then a year later, this book, A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple, comes out. I will leave the link below. And it completely gave me permission to talk about this stuff that I felt like I needed to almost hide, or like no one would understand me. And that book was about plasma physics and how that knowledge can change your life, and how the physics of plasma basically proved that plasma has intelligence, that it is a form of possibly sentient life, different than our life, but I will get into that later. But basically, plasma is very magical. So anyway, I can give a better explanation than that, but I will do that on the video that's about him. But that just even opened up my mind more into reading the book and kind of coming up with my own questions and perspectives on things as well, based on what I was already researching. But it is such a great jumping off point for anyone who wants to learn about plasma physics and a little bit of plasma metaphysics and plasma intelligence. And then I came across Nassim Haramein, which I also highly recommend. He is a physicist, and he's kind of against the grain of a lot of science. I don't think that's a bad thing, to be completely honest. He's very open-minded, but he's very smart. And he kind of is like a modern day Nikola Tesla. And he talked about how Plancks, which are these very, very, very small particles, are little mini black holes, and that they're creating in the universe basically. And he called them, I think at one point he called them like plasmatic, or he'd start talking about plasma and toruses. And for those of you that don't know, the Taurus is a huge symbol of plasma, which I promise I will also get into. But anyway, fast forward, I'm a plasma obsessor, obsessed with plasma metaphysics. I think it's gonna like change the world. I have since been experimenting with connecting with it, which has brought me closer in connecting with myself and other people. It has completely changed my psychology, how I look at life in a positive way. I live life with more love, with more kindness. There's nothing negative that can come from it as long as you're using it for good, which I think is one of the reasons why people don't want maybe people to know about this stuff. But you know, like anything, like technology, you can use it for bad or good. I think this is the same thing, but I think either way, this knowledge has to be out there, and we need to have more faith in people. People inherently are good, and yes, there is so much bad in the world, but I think we need to unleash this almost magic, like Prometheus did, unleash the fire. It's the same thing, plasma and fire. It's so exciting. I'll get into it, but I would love to be like this modern day Prometheus with all my other Prometheus people. Since I'm not the inventor of this knowledge, I'm just one of the people that feel connected to it and are seeing it in my own perspective. I think everyone has their own perspective when it comes to plasma, which is why it's so exciting, because there's not one gatekeeper. But I think this knowledge has been hidden in secret societies, in religions, it's been suppressed, and I'm not being a conspiracy theorist. I really believe that, and I think you will believe that too after watching these videos. And I get I get people maybe wanted to hide this knowledge because it could get in the wrong hands, and I get it, but I think with everyone's consciousness raising, it really is time to give away this and let the people have free will and let them do what they will with it. And it's the next step of evolution, right? Yeah. So in science, they say plasma is a superheated matter that is so hot that electrons are ripped away, causing it to be an ionized gas. Make sure I got that right. And it comprises over 99.9, some people say, of the whole entire universe. That is a lot of universe to comprise of, where we are not talking about this thing more. Like, matter is 1%, and they're saying plasma is the 99%. That actually makes the 1%, which I will get into in the science episode. Why don't more people know about this? Like, you have to ask those questions, you know? I'm going to give you my definition of plasma, which I'm just gonna come up with right now. I think that it is a clay-like, neutral clay-like, ineffable substance, interstitial fluid medium that is inside of us, it is outside of us, it impermeates us in the entire universe. It is what all the other elements rise out of and go back to. It is what we rise out of and go back to. It is part of what the soul is made out of. It is sentience, and then there is consciousness. I think plasma is a vehicle for that consciousness, that we can impress our consciousness on this plasma to create physical matter. I think that plasma heals. I think that plasma is a method for communication with other dimensions and realities. And I know that might sound cray, but so did airplanes a couple 100 years ago, or 100 years ago. So yeah, I think anything can happen. I think that plasma is the future as far as fusion goes, and cold fusion and different futuristic inventions. I think it's part of the solar punk movement and the optimistic futurism movement. I think it's part of free energy and what Nikola Tesla was working on. I think it is this yellow or purple pink plasmatic energy that maybe some people have seen in meditation or sleep or in near-death experiences. I think it's the thing that when we impress what we want in life into it, whether we're coming from a traumatized state, an evil state, a good state, that, you know, it makes those things happen. And it is such an important tool that we can use. It is a thing we can be in a relationship with. It is a thing we can show love to and receive love from. And ultimately, get ready for this, ultimately, plasma is us. There is space plasma on the outside, maybe known in mythology as the Akashic realm. There is bioplasma, which is known maybe as our bodies, our aura. And then there is blood plasma, which is a yellow substance inside or something to do with blood. I have a theory that that actually is how our body communicates very fast, because I think as above, so below. And I think that even though the inner plasma and the outer plasma in science are two different things, there's no coincidence they have the same name, and I believe that they're actually the same thing. In this series, I will be talking about a slew of topics that have to do with plasma. I will be talking about the mythology of plasma, which gets more into Anana. It gets more into when they talked about in the Bible making people out of clay. I think that they're talking about plasma. Get into Mary Magdalene and the vessel and how I think what that has to do with plasma. What Hermes has to do with plasma, the interdimensional traveler in mythology. That one's a really cool one. How animism and plasma have a lot to do with each other, and also what they talk about in the Quran, the jinn, and there is so much there with comparison to plasma. Basically, in all mythologies, you can connect them to plasma, and it is wild. When I read all this, I'm like, has no one thought of this? And I've seen around on the internet, a couple people are starting to think about it, and I'm like, I'm definitely not the only one. And I will leave a footnote. It's kind of funny because when I first discovered this stuff, I think I wasn't as spiritually evolved, not like I really am now. I think we're always evolving, but I was like, oh, I'm the only one to know this. I want to be the first one to publish a book on it. And then I had to check myself. I was like, Dana, this is not your knowledge. This is something you're borrowing, that you're channeling to tell people and for them to make their own conclusions. You do not own plasma. No one owns plasma. This is a beautiful thing that is being remembered, that is part of nature, that is part of all of us. And once again, this is just my perspective, and that I don't need a rush to get a book out there right now, even though I am writing one, and that's what inspired this series. But yeah, none of us own this, and that's what's so cool about it. I will also be talking about the people of plasma, like Nikola Tesla, Alexis Didier. There is a slew of people. I won't get into it all now. The different names for plasma: orgone energy, chi, prana, animal magnetism, bioplasmic energy, love, gravity, quintessence, implicate and explicate order, complexity theory. I will be talking about psychology in plasma and how it relates to symbolism and Carl Jung, and how I equate plasma to being called the trickster. That part is very interesting as well. I will be talking about plasma intelligence and what inorganic versus organic matter is and how that relates to plasma. I will be talking about the language of plasma as far as symbolism goes, and how you can communicate with plasma, which is ultimately communicating with yourself, but also with other sentient beings. And there are differences between light beings and plasma beings, and that was something that I feel like is really cool, and also just my opinion, but if it resonates with you, great. How magic and plasma have a lot to do with each other. And I will also be talking about my own plasma theories, which is what I'm most excited for. It is all theoretical, but whatever. So is everything else until it's invented. I will be talking about a familial relationship theory I have going, that I'm coming up with, about how I think the universe is as it pertains to plasma. I will be talking more about how I think you can communicate with other realities and dimensions using plasma, how you can maybe access your inner self through the lens of plasma, other dimensions and sacred geometry and fractals and how that all relates to plasma. And I know I'm just listing stuff off, but I'm just hoping that this kind of dings when you guys are listening and it's resonating with you, because there's just so much to talk about. And lastly, I will talk about how to be like plasma. Just like Bruce Lee had a book, or his daughter, one of them had a book, Be Like Water. I think it was his own kind of thought process. I, have a saying, be like plasma, and that's almost like be like nature. And what does that entail? And the cosmic waters, the ocean, the universal cosmic ocean, and plasma, I think that's the same thing. So I'm pretty sure plasma and water can be a little interchangeable. But yeah, I'm really excited. In conclusion, I would love to know if you guys have ever heard of this plasma stuff. Is it confusing the crap out of you? Do you want to know more about it? Are there any theories that you have or things you want to hear about or specific topics for episodes? Please put it down below and subscribe, like, and comment on my stuff, please, so this information can get out there more. The only reason I'm doing this channel is because I am having fun and I want to help people. I have felt, so lonely at times in my life, and I want people to realize that there are beautiful ways that they can at least connect with themselves and this, fluid. At least for me, that helped me connect with other people. That helped me connect more with the world. It helped me kind of live in more of a state of love than fear, and not in some like spiritual bypassy way. This is like in a beautiful, grounded, healthy way. I will also say, just as a last word, it is very, 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 very important to work on any trauma you've had in your past before stepping into this work fully, because plasma is very reflective. And just like I had nightmares when I was a kid because I hadn't worked on myself yet, things can be a little bit harder when you're not coming maybe from the right place or the most healthiest place and working with this stuff. So I really recommend, don't do any of this until you're ready. If you just want to learn about it, just learn about it. But as far as putting anything I'm going to talk about into practice, I would wait until you've had a couple years of therapy and you're feeling healthy. Not like, we're all works in progress, but like the major traumas, I definitely think you should work on before jumping right into this. And I'll leave it at that for now. That will be a whole nother video as well. It's almost like if plasma is a spaceship and there's like instructions for rocket science that you need to drive your vehicle. I feel like that's a good one, because it is like a vehicle for consciousness. It's our own little like spaceship. So anyway, I will leave you guys. I hope you all have a beautiful Thanksgiving. Thank you for anyone who's even watching this, and I love you all. Mwah, plasma. I think I might know what these drones are. These UFOs that are being seen all over the country, especially in New Jersey, which is home to a lot of nuclear power plants, and also the Princeton lab, which literally studies plasma. Have you heard of a dark plasma being, or dark plasma? Okay, so a lot of these orbs that are seen at Skinwalker Ranch, they call them UAPs. Other people are calling them plasmoids. All you need to know is there's a fourth state of matter called plasma. It makes up 99.9% of the universe, but no one's taught about it in school for a good reason. Because if you knew about it, you would be very empowered and magical. So plasma is known as an ionized gas. It also has what is called luminescence, where it is very bright and shiny, just like these plasma UFOs we're seeing. So there's this guy, J. Alfred. You can look him up. He's a physicist, and he talks about dark matter life forms, and they look exactly like what we're seeing. And basically he talks about how to identify one, and he calls it dark astrobiology, which is so cool. And in this article, he talks about plasmoids. Think of dark matter almost as inverted or fourth dimensional or invisible to the naked eye. And when it's interacting with consciousness and this plasma stuff, it becomes visible to the third dimension, to the naked eye, because of this luminescence or fluorescence. The light actually means that these life forms are trying to communicate with us, or they're receiving energy from us. And these look pretty much like UFOs or light beams, which people are seeing too. He actually says these life forms are way more common than carbon-based life forms like humans, because this dark matter, or what he's calling dark plasma, which I call dark plasma too, this fourth dimensional, invisible to the naked eye, usually plasma, this makes up most of the universe, where solid matter does not make up most of the universe. A lot of people in the spiritual community talk about plasma beings. They're intelligent entities. Sometimes they can be holding consciousness of future people, of interdimensional beings. Sometimes they're just plasmas on their own, which are sentient. They talk to you in a flow or in a feeling or psychic sense, not with words. It's more like you get kind of a feeling, or you feel like you're in a flow state. And I've literally watched videos where these people talk about feeling like they're in a flow state when they're summoning these UAPs or these plasmoids. It was even in the movie Brave, the Will-O-Wisp. That's a plasma. Look it up. These are plasmoids. I think Nassim Haramein or someone talked about once. So plasmoids, they also have to do with shape-shifting. This is literally on the Journal of Modern Physics page. You could look it up. They just released this in 2024. I know this looks like a science fiction article, but this is a 110-page article. There's very interesting stuff in here, and I promise more of this will be proven. Plasma is the new thing. And if you're loving this, I have a plasma intelligence playlist and a book coming out called A New Force, all on plasma and consciousness. The link's in my bio. Basically, in this paper, they talk about NASA. Most of the UAPs or UFOs they report are plasmoids. Not all, but most. They see them in space. This is what they look like. They have a lot of lights with threes. A lot of them look like come in threes or have 3 dots. They kind of look like a toruses or a toroidal shape. These are more in space. And then they also talk about elves, sprites, and jets, which are plasmas, which is a hilarious name. It's very mythological. There's a reason for that. It's because these are intelligent. Plasma is intelligent. It is sentient. Consciousness travels through plasma or space. It is this invisible space that is made visible by this luminescence, which usually is the electrons just from plasma being free. They literally talk about in the Second World War, American, English, German, and Japanese pilots were followed by these plasmoids, these UAPs, and they were often white, silver, red, and glowing translucent, shaped like clouds, donuts, balls, spheres, and stars. The pilots call them Foo Fighters. This is still happening to this day. So one thing, this news is nothing new. Maybe they're showing themselves to us more because they're pissed at what we're doing. I have another explanation I'm going to talk about, though. They also talk about when people see these UAPs, they can hallucinate or feel confused when they come into contact with these plasmas. And also, of course, when people get abducted, they talk about this. Think of it as though they're abducting your consciousness and your plasma body, but not your entire body, which is why people might not believe you. Because you're technically not going anywhere. They're taking a part of your consciousness in this plasmoid, this plasma ship. Because these plasmoids kind of have to do with, they're out of space and time. It's almost like they create like a little wormhole or like a 5th dimensional space where time doesn't exist. And this is where you're kind of abducted, you lose time, why you feel like you're gone for way longer. Yeah, these explain all of that. I can get into it, but it's way too much. So the UFO sightings in New Jersey, they kind of remind me of plasmas in a lab, which I'm about to show you. Number 1, they're either plasmas of some sort, or number 2, let's just think about this for a second. So these could be shape-shifting plasmoids that are appearing to us in something our consciousness can understand. Or this is definitely the government, and this is some type of like psyop where they're trying to distract us. Because a lot of the times in the news, we see what people want us to see. So let's not forget, if this is being shown in the news, there might be more to this story, which has nothing to do with what they're telling us or showing us. Like, please question everything. But let's just say that the media really can't control it and the government really doesn't know what they are. This is what I'm postulating on today. But I do want you to have that other option in your head. And what I think that other option could be is that the real alien invasion is coming from inside. These plasmas, whether they're the drones or not, they're talking to us from our inner voice. They connect with us, like I said, through this flow state, through this sentience rather than logic. And the only way we can understand their messages is if we're in a flow state, if we're connected to our heart and soul, if we know who we are. And the more we're distracted by media, by consumerism, by capitalism, we don't know who we are. The more we're distracted by anything and not searching inside through meditation, through art, through questioning, I don't know what it's called, self-inquiry, the less you are going to be able to contact these beings. So whatever you do, get in contact with your own inner self, because you can contact these beings anytime. And you can do it on your own. No one needs to tell you how. Okay, so these to me look like plasmas. I'll show you. This is another one. So plasmas in a lab also can look like galaxies. I mean, literally our whole entire universe is plasma. Yes, and other stuff, but literally everything. It's a plasma universe, babe. Very interesting too. This is a Vessia Pisces, and these are what plasmas make, the shapes plasmas make. Interesting, 666 plasma. Usually, my therapist always says when we see symbols that look like evil, remember there's always a flip side and a good to them, and evil just harnesses them for the wrong things. Once again, plasmoids can be toruses or balls or spirals. They were studying plasmoids. Winston H. Bostick, look this up yourself. They studied this in this is from the 1950s. They even developed an AI program to identify space plasmoids. They obviously have a huge interest, Princeton in New Jersey, in plasma. But the way plasmas kind of show up, whether it's filaments, whether it's like stringy toruses or spirals, or these kind of things. It looks kind of like the drones. And yeah, there's a lot of 3s with plasma. I don't know. Not for nothing, but there's a book called Chariot of the Gods, which clearly also look like plasma UFOs. Funny enough, plasma also takes the shape of an eye a lot and also looks like cells. It's very reflective. But in mythology, these Chariot of the Gods, so it would be these gods riding these animals. Think of plasma as the animal or the sentience, and the god as consciousness. These plasmas, these plasmoids, are holding the consciousness of these gods or of these aliens or of these higher conscious beings or our future selves. This is literally a UFO. This is a plasmoid in mythology. And guess what? Helios, the sun is literally plasma. Like the sun is a form of, a star is plasma. So is lightning. And I talk about this on my Plasma Intelligence playlist. Another big sign, look at the 3, by the way. It's not always 3, but here it is. But look, another big sign about this is your consciousness can also harness plasma to eventually our future selves use it for riding around in UAPs, traveling the universe. But we can also use plasma in meditations to heal ourselves. We can use it to manifest our greatest destinies. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about in my book. But plasma is amazing. There's so much you can learn about it. I don't know how I know any of this. I feel like I kind of channel it. I feel like plasma is just like my destiny. But yeah, I think you guys will, if you came this far, you'll probably love my Plasma Intelligence playlist, which is in my TikTok. Here's the deal. We're asking the wrong questions. We shouldn't be asking where are these drones coming from. We shouldn't be asking our own government that, who barely tells us anything. What we should be doing is asking ourselves, how can I get in touch with these drones, these plasmas, these aliens? And I'm not the first to say it. It's by knowing thyself. Know thyself. All the answers are inside of you. The more you can listen in here, the more you can listen out there. The more you can get in touch with these plasmas. Through sentience, through plasma intelligence, through body intelligence. Not through mind, not through logic. Mind will translate it from your body. Oh my God. Y'all, the UFOs, the drones in New Jersey are chasing these things. That is it. That's the freaking answer. So these are called plasmoids, and the drones are actually probably government drones chasing these plasmoids, and they don't want us to know how important these are. These are magic. These are the plasmas I've been talking about for years. And I will give the credit where credit's due. There are several people who posited that these drones are actually chasing the plasmoids, that the drones are not plasmoids, and I 100% agree. Genius. So what the F are plasmoids? I'll tell you. And I have 115 videos on plasma, plasmoids, and plasma intelligence in my playlist on my bio if you are obsessed with this after this video. Okay, plasma is the fourth state of matter. It is in plasma balls, it is lightning, it is ionized gas that creates fluorescence when the electrons are flurrying around the nucleus and they're free. Crash course on plasma. Non-plasma, plasma, free electrons, not super tied to the nucleus. This can create fluorescence, which is in the aurora borealis, lightning, fluorescent light, neon lights. Plasma is also the sun and any star. Plasma has to do with sacred geometry, and now let's get into plasmoids. There are several theories that plasma is intelligent, including the intelligent plasma hypothesis by Dr. Massimo Teodorini, who is an astrophysicist, and of course an electronic musician, because plasma is sound. There's also a book, A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple, which is literally about the science of plasma transforming humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. It talks about plasmoids. And then this is Dr. Massimo's book about consciousness and plasma. So basically these plasmoids have literally been studied by the government since the 50s. And now they're appearing in our atmosphere instead of just space where they can be hidden away to study in private and its magical properties. Yep, plasma is magic. There are several government and physicist papers on plasma. Just Google CIA plasma UAPs. You can also look up this and this in the Journal of Modern Physics about new studies on plasma and plasmoids. This was recent. A couple common things plasmoids have in common are they put you into a flow state. You can literally hallucinate when you see them. They distort light. They also can be found a lot near water. And sometimes even plasma beings or these entities shapeshift from the ship down into these little either plasma balls or humanoid shapes of light and connect with people. They can be seen in the form of toruses, blobs, spirals. They glow. They're electromagnetic. Okay, so these drones that are probably studying these plasmas, this is the kicker. These plasmas are basically fractal and light. And this is where science meets magic, my friends. Sacred geometry, plasma is associated not only with the platonic solids, but plasma is indeed fractal, even in mathematics and science. Especially in quark-gluon plasma, think of it as dying plasma, because it basically, when they're in the Hadron Collider or when they're breaking all these things apart, this plasma is shown at the deepest structures of the universe, which I would call dying plasma. My friend actually also thought of that and told me that. And I think that now we'll get into my theory. The opposite of this dying plasma is the living plasma that literally creates everything in the universe. It is the substrate of freaking reality in this holographic universe we call the Matrix. It is the divine feminine, and these plasmoids are these divine feminine shapes holding the masculine consciousness. Plasma is the vehicle for consciousness. If you go to the link in my bio, you can read on my website all about what plasma intelligence is. Basically, our entire world is made up of a plasma akin to a living ether, and a live ether, which is the medium for light and consciousness. And think of these plasmoids basically as holding these future or higher consciousnesses that are bilocating or remote viewing us. What is that? Basically, bilocation is where your consciousness can be two places at once. So these plasmoids almost create like a wormhole or like a looking glass, where these alien entities can view us without actually being here. So they kind of stay safe in case they get shot down by these drones, which isn't going to do anything to them because they're literally higher consciousnesses and we can't do anything to them. And there's also no reason to be scared of them. We should be scared of ourselves. And that's what they're here to tell us, by the way. If you wanted to get into some channeled messaging here, number one, we should be scared of ourselves. Number two, we should stop all of the stuff we're doing that while they're showing up around certain facilities, they don't really want that happening. There's way safer methods. And guess what? Humanity can save themselves by... We're creating the need for fusion and cleaning the air because of the stuff we're doing. There's things we don't need to do that can stop that all from happening to begin with. We'll figure that out eventually. You can think of plasma as ki, prana, energy, flubber. Think of the fact that we're all in a painting. The painting is all made by plasma, but it's in different gradients, densities, colors. That is our universe. So plasma has its own sentience or intelligence apart from consciousness, which means that these entities, these plasma balls, they're actually holding the consciousness. But they think of it as an intelligent horse or an intelligent horse that you're riding. You're the consciousness riding this horse. Like this, the chariot of the gods. So we're the consciousness, or these beings looking at us are riding this horsey, and this plasma ball is also intelligent and sentient, and it can shapeshift. It can, fly away. It can go very fast, maybe into other dimensions. So plasma is the vehicle for consciousness. So think about when we die, our consciousness goes back to this fountain, this lake, and then it's almost reborn into this earthly plane. It's a more fifth dimensional and fourth dimensional space. And then think of these plasma balls, these plasmoids that you're seeing as this denser plasma, this ship that's holding our consciousness. So it's kind of like everything's made out of clay, and we're scooping the clay and we're adding stuff to it. So it's a ship. I hope that makes sense. Also, something to know, consciousness is the male principle, plasma is the female principle. They feed off of each other almost in a feedback loop or an infinity loop to make the divine child, to make matter, to make God's children, the universe's children, literally everything creation, everything you see on this earth. And something also, us, we are actually the tool, we are the funnel, we are the gold, alchemical gold, we are the vessel, we are the chalice, we are the Holy Grail, and consciousness and plasma feedback with us. And that's how we create our reality, our multi-dimensional experience, is by harnessing consciousness and plasma. Think of consciousness almost as like this fifth dimensional light, what people can call God. And think of plasma as the energy that consciousness molds to create our third dimensional reality. And these plasmas that you see in our third dimensional reality in the form of lightning, stars, these are almost three-dimensional artifacts of a higher dimensional plasma, a fifth dimensional plasma, or a fourth dimensional plasma. Think of fourth dimensional plasma as kind of like dark matter. This is like maybe what gray aliens are made out of. It's more inorganic. And then this fifth dimensional plasma, would kind of almost be like think of it in the singularity of a black hole, or in a fifth dimensional space where time and space do not exist, and it has to do with a higher consciousness, and it's kind of like feedbacking with this universe, and this like big consciousness is learning about us as we learn about it. I'm getting on way too much of a tangent, but I'm just trying to introduce you to stuff in case you haven't heard of this before, but I talk about this all the time. Here's the thing. You know truth. I don't have to convince you of anything. You never have to watch my videos again. I do not care. What I care about is saying what I feel like is true in my heart and soul, what I am not being paid to say, what I am saying from the deepest source of my intuition. Maybe I'm wrong, whatever, but I don't think I am. I think plasma is the future. I think plasma is the holy grail, and so are we. I think plasma is the return of this divine feminine, but also this age of Aquarius, this divine child. Plasma will have to do with how we travel in the future. It will have to do with interdimensional communication. It's going to have to do with healing cancer. It's going to have to do with cleaning the air, and these things are already happening. It has to do with us being able, when we interdimensionally travel, we're probably going to be using these same kind of things in the future, way in the future. Oh, but what I was saying is, you know, if this is true, you feel it if in your heart and soul, if this is making your cheeks warm, if this is making you excited and giddy, but you also feel like a weird sense of like flow and peace, you know that this cannot hurt you. Think of it as like a grandparent that lets you make mistakes, and sometimes it says no when you ask it for things, but it really wants everything for your highest good to happen. This is kind of what the plasmas, or this plasmatic energy, wants for all of us. It wants our highest good, and it doesn't usually interfere, but it sometimes does when we need it. And you can communicate with this plasma at any time. There's the energy of plasma all outside of us. There's our inner plasma. There's our higher self. There's other beings in this plasma field. There's our soul family, which is made of plasma. And the key to all of this is within you. If you've connected with yourself and know who you are, you'll never need, once again, to hear from me again. There's a link in my bio for my upcoming book on plasma intelligence, if you're curious and if this resonates with you.